On the Road and Kerouac Bio, Seven Randall. The novel On the Road by Jack Kerouac is a fictionalized retelling of Kerouac's own life experiences and adventures through the eyes of the main character and narrator, Sal Paradise. Jack Kerouac was born in the United States, Lowell, Massachusetts, on March 12 in 1922, and he died at just 47 on October 21st in 1969 due to abdominal hemorrhaging and complications to alcoholism. Kerouac married 3 times, first to Edie Parker in 1944 after her parents paid his bail when he was arrested as a material witness on the condition that the couple marry upon his release, second to Joan Haverty in 1951, and lastly to Stella Sampras in 1966. Along with being an American novelist and poet, Kerouac was a leader of the Beat movement alongside his friends Allen Ginsberg and William S. Burroughs. The Beat movement was a social and literary movement defined by a rebellion from the conventional society. On the Road was originally written in 1951, however it was not picked up and printed as a book till 1957. It was originally written on a scroll of 120 feet of paper, all taped together and ran through a manual typewriter. In a New York Times rave review, critic Gilbert Milston wrote, "There are sections of On the Road in which the writing is of a beauty almost breathtaking. There is a description of a cross-country automobile ride, fully the equal, for example, of the train ride told by Thomas Wolfe in Of Time and the River. There are details of a trip to Mexico and the interlude in a Mexican bordello that are, by turns, awesome, tender, and funny. And finally, there is some writing on jazz that has never been equaled in American fiction, either for insight, style, or technical virtuosity. On the Road is a major novel." Sal Paradise is the narrator and protagonist in On the Road. He is a young writer and is living with his aunt in New Jersey until he follows his friend, Dean Moriarty, out to the west to join him on a series of beat adventures whilst he continues working on his book. Dean Moriarty comes to New York hoping to learn how to be an intellectual and writer after growing up in and out of reform schools and prisons. Dean befriends Sal and ends up motivating Sal to go out to his journey on the road. Moriarty's character first appears on the very first page of the novel, Part 1, page 1. With the coming of Dean Moriarty began the part of my life you could call my life on the road. Before that, I had often dreamed of going west to see the country, always vaguely planning and never taking off. Dean is the perfect guy for the road because he actually was born on the road, when his parents were passing through Salt Lake City in 1926 in a jalopy on their way to Los Angeles. Kerouac 1. Dean Moriarty shows an example of Kerouac's personal experiences working their way into the novel. Neal Cassady was a friend of Kerouac's and the inspiration for the character of Dean Moriarty. Cassady was also born in Salt Lake City on a pit stop and had been arrested 6 times by the time he was 21. Cassady met Kerouac in 1946 and they became friends, leading to Kerouac driving out to Denver after he returned to see him, beginning the start of many road trips they took together. Cassady also very likely influenced Kerouac's spontaneous prose writing style with a letter that he sent in 1950. Neal Cassady, however, is not the only of Kerouac's personal friends who works their way into the novel. Carlo Marx is a poet and a friend of Sal and Dean's, who is also meant to represent a fellow beat poet, Allen Ginsberg, who is a close personal friend of both Kerouac and Neal Cassady. In a New York Times article written after Kerouac's death in October of 1969, Joseph Levield also explores Kerouac's autobiographical tendencies in his writing. He says, Mr. Ginsberg appears in Kerouac's novels under a variety of names: Carlo Marx, Irwin Garden, Adam Murad, and Alvia Goldbrook, but it is always immediately recognizable. This is true of all Mr. Kerouac's close friends, for there was little fiction in his novels. Jack Kerouac's novel, On the Road, is just one of many of Kerouac's autobiographical fiction pieces that he uses to tell the stories of both his life and the lives of the people around him. The only people for me are the mad ones, the ones who are mad to live, mad to talk, mad to be saved, desirous of everything at the same time, the ones who never yawn or say a commonplace thing but burn, 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 like fabulous yellow Roman candles exploding like spiders across the stars, and in the middle you see the blue center light pop and everybody goes, "Ah." The quote provided on the slide prior is one of the most famous quotes from the entire novel. This is likely because it provides us unique insight into both what Sal Paradise and what Mr. Kerouac find most valuable in the company they've kept throughout their lives. Nothing behind me, everything ahead of me, as is ever so on the road. The quote provided, I believe, is one of the things that makes On the Road so valuable. Both Kerouac and Sal were at a turning point that a new generation of people continue to face each year, allowing the book to stay relatable even in its outdated theme.